There is a place on Earth, roughly the size of Manhattan, that no government on the planet fully controls. No phones work there. No drones survive there. No outsider has set foot on its beaches and lived to tell the story in the last 25 years. It's not guarded by soldiers. It's not sealed off by walls or barbed wire. It's guarded by people, a tribe that has lived in complete isolation for an estimated 60,000 years, and who will kill you, on sight, the moment your boat touches their sand. This is North Sentinel Island, and today we're going to find out why one of the most beautiful, untouched places left on Earth is also one of the deadliest. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal, part of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands, a chain of over 500 islands stretched between India and Myanmar, closer to Thailand than to mainland India itself. The island itself is small, about 60 square kilometers, roughly circular, ringed by coral reefs that make approaching by boat incredibly dangerous even before anyone on the beach notices you. Dense tropical rainforest covers almost the entire interior, so thick that satellite imagery has never been able to confirm how many people actually live there. Estimates range from 50 to 500 people. There are no ports, no docks, no paths cut into the interior visible from above. The Indian Coast Guard patrols the surrounding waters, but even they keep a distance of several nautical miles, because getting close by sea is genuinely hazardous, and getting close on land has, historically, ended in death. Officially, this island belongs to India. Unofficially, India has almost no control over what actually happens on it. The people who live on North Sentinel are known as the Sentinelese, believed to be direct descendants of the first humans who migrated out of Africa, potentially making them one of the last pre-Neolithic societies on Earth. Some anthropologists believe their ancestors have been isolated on this single island for tens of thousands of years, untouched by agriculture, untouched by modern disease, and completely untouched by the outside world. We don't know what language they speak. We don't know what they call themselves. We don't know their customs, their beliefs, or their history, because no outsider has ever successfully communicated with them in any meaningful way. What we do know is this: they do not want visitors, ever, under any circumstances. And they've made that unmistakably clear for over 150 years. In 1880, a British colonial officer named Maurice Vidal Portman led an expedition onto the island, one of the first documented contacts. His team kidnapped 6 Sentinelese people, an elderly couple and 4 children, and brought them back to Port Blair. The adults died quickly, likely from diseases their immune systems had never encountered. The children were eventually returned to the island, potentially bringing pathogens back with them that could have devastated the population. It set the tone for the next century. Contact with outsiders meant death. Fast forward to the 1970s and 90s. Indian anthropologists, most notably T.N. Pandit, made repeated contact attempts, dropping gifts like coconuts and metal pots from boats offshore. Sometimes, the Sentinelese collected the gifts. More often, they responded with arrows. In 2004, after the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, a helicopter was sent to check whether the tribe had survived. What the pilot found became one of the most famous images associated with the island. A lone Sentinelese man, standing on the beach, firing arrows up at the helicopter, a clear message that even after a natural disaster of historic scale, the answer was still no. Then, in 2006, 2 fishermen whose boat drifted too close to the island were killed. Indian authorities tried to recover their bodies by helicopter and were driven back by a hail of arrows. The most widely reported case came in 2018, when an American missionary named John Allen Chau paid local fishermen to illegally bring him near the island. He wrote in his journal that he believed God wanted him to bring Christianity to the tribe. He approached the beach in a kayak. The fisherman who dropped him off reportedly watched from a distance the next morning as the Sentinelese buried his body on the shore. His body was never recovered. Every single one of these encounters tells the same story. This is not a myth, and it is not exaggerated for YouTube thumbnails. This island has a 2-century track record of responding to outside contact with lethal force. Why doesn't India just go in? This is where it gets interesting, because you'd think a modern nuclear power like India could simply send in the military and solve this. They don't. And the reason isn't fear, it's policy, ethics, and law. Since 1956, and reinforced strongly since 1996, India has enforced an official policy of eyes on, hands off. The Indian government has made deliberate contact illegal. Getting within 5 nautical miles of the island's shore is a criminal offense under Indian law, punishable by fines and imprisonment. Why? 2 massive reasons. First, disease. The Sentinelese have zero immunity to outside illnesses. Something as mundane as a common cold could wipe out the entire population within weeks, exactly as happened to indigenous populations across the Americas and Pacific Islands after European contact. Anthropologists widely agree that forced contact wouldn't just be dangerous for outsiders, it could be an extinction-level event for the tribe. Second, sovereignty and self-determination. International human rights organizations, including Survival International, classify the Sentinelese as one of the last uncontacted peoples on Earth and argue they have an absolute right to remain that way. India, despite technically owning the island, has essentially agreed this is one territory it possesses but has chosen never to govern. There's also a strategic layer few people talk about. The Andaman and Nicobar chain sits near vital shipping lanes in the Bay of Bengal, close to the Strait of Malacca, one of the busiest and most geopolitically sensitive waterways on Earth, through which a massive percentage of global trade passes. India maintains a military presence throughout the Andamans, specifically to project power in this region. North Sentinel, oddly, benefits from this. It's surrounded by Indian military patrols, not to invade it, but to keep everyone else away from it. So you have this bizarre geopolitical situation, one of the most heavily trafficked, strategically watched maritime regions in the world, and, sitting right in the middle of it, one small island that every navy, coast guard, and government has agreed to simply leave alone. What happens if you try? So what actually happens if you, hypothetically, try to visit? Legally, you're committing a serious crime the moment your boat crosses that 5 nautical mile line. If Indian authorities catch you first, expect arrest and possible imprisonment. If they don't catch you, the island will. The reef surrounding North Sentinel has wrecked ships for decades. A cargo vessel called the MV Primrose ran aground on the reef in 1981, and its rusted skeleton is still visible from satellite images today, a permanent monument to how unforgiving these waters are. And if you somehow survive the reef, survive detection, and actually reach the sand, the tribe that has killed nearly every outsider who has tried this for 150 years will very likely make sure you're the next name on that list. There is no version of this trip that ends well. North Sentinel Island isn't dangerous because of volcanoes, wildlife, or extreme weather. It's dangerous because it's one of the last places on Earth where a group of people successfully said no to the modern world and made it stick for over a century through sheer force of will. In a world that's mapped, surveyed, and touched by satellites, it remains one of the only true blank spots left. If you want to see more places on Earth that are still off-limits, for reasons even stranger than this one, hit subscribe, because that's exactly what we're covering next.